When it comes to the definition of a muscle car, depending on who you talk to, they will give you different criteria, different checklists. I'm going to be straightforward and say that every car on this list is not technically a muscle car. To be a muscle car, and this is coming from the Muscle Car Club, they have V8s, originated in America, are rear-wheel drive, and were produced in the 60s and 70s.
This is a brand new 1968 Pontiac GTO. It's been beautifully restyled from bumper to bumper.
There are more attributes to the muscle car, but these are the most common. I can say that every car on this list has a V8, is rear-wheel drive, and is from an American company. Be sure to watch until the very end so you can find out how these cars rank on a tier list. The 10th gen Ford Thunderbird. There was so much controversy when this car came out that Ford ended up firing the man behind the project. It cost way too much to make and was far heavier than its competition. The earlier models were only offered with the V6, and it wouldn't be until '91 that the T-Bird gets its V8 with 200 horsepower. As I said earlier, this car was heavy. It's a boat. 200 horsepower does nothing for it. And with that, 0 to 60 in 9.2 seconds. Now yes, if you're a 10th gen Ford Thunderbird fanboy, then you would know about the supercharged V6. It's definitely cool, but I have to stick with the purpose of this video, and by that I mean V8s only. In 1994, Ford introduced the 4.6, which gave the T-Bird an extra 5 horsepower?
What?
Oh, and only an automatic was available for the V8 powertrains. There was also talk about Ford coming out with an SVE Thunderbird. That would have been what this thing needed. They scrapped that idea and actually destroyed 3 of the 4 prototypes, and apparently the one and only one SVE Thunderbird sold on Craigslist?
Bruh.
The 12th gen Cadillac Eldorado. Like the Thunderbird, the Eldorado was in this weird personal luxury / sports car segment in an attempt to appeal to the younger crowd. This was the decade where the North Star was introduced.
Today we're going to talk about the stupidest design ever as far as an engine goes.
While this engine is notably unreliable, it does pack a punch. The 4.6 in this car gave it around 300 horsepower, 0 to 60 in a flat 7 seconds, even with all that weight. It being a Cadillac, of course, it came equipped with an elegant interior, very spacious and comfy. While sales were better than the prior generation, which is a joke of its own, it ultimately failed, not because it wasn't liked, not because it wasn't attractive, just the market was switching to SUVs and turbocharged front-wheel drive sedans. GM dropped production 1 year before the 50th anniversary of the Eldorado name, which, I mean, come on, really? Although they did release a limited production special edition trim in 2002 for its final goodbye. I did say every car is rear-wheel drive, but this one's not. Every car on this list has a V8, is rear-wheel drive. Every car on this list has a V8, is rear-wheel drive. Okay, it's fucking front wheel. Why they would make this front wheel when its competition, the Mark 8, wasn't, I just don't get it. But speaking of the Mark 8, that's our next entry. The Mark 8 is an unusual car, especially in today's standards, and I can't tell you the last time I saw one. If you called it ugly though, I wouldn't disagree. It's kind of weird looking, but once again, another giant luxury coupe. And if you did not know this already, the Mark 8 shared its platform with the Thunderbird and the Cougar. But oddly enough, Ford gave them different engines. I could not tell you why. Ford introduced a new 4.6 specifically for the Mark 8, and this was their first ever modular V8, 290 horsepower and 290 foot-pounds of torque. Does the Mark 8 have that muscle look to it? Not really, but it's American, it has rear-wheel drive, and it has a V8. So for that, it deserves a spot on this list. If you think the exterior is kind of goofy looking, well, the interior matches that same energy. It has like these unusual levels in the cabin. I think it's very weird. And Lincoln thought it would be a good idea to give the Mark 8 a quote-unquote spare tire hump. I guess it was to pay tribute to the older generations. I don't know, I think that's a little weird too. The Impala SS. GM brought the SS name back for the Impala after it was gone for 25 years. Many people were nervous about its release because the Impala SS name has been such a success.
The question I have is, what if a Corvette got really drunk and had a fling with a sedan DeVille, but wished it was a limousine? The Offspring? Sitting right over there.
Turns out people liked it. They loved it, and it's clear on why. They gave this essentially a Corvette LT1 engine, 5.7 small block V8, 260 horsepower. Rather than aluminum cylinder heads, the SS used iron ones, and this would help boost the Impala's torque to a whopping 330. The Impala SS was based on the Chevy Caprice, a family-oriented sedan, just with a Corvette engine. Well, muscle cars aren't supposed to have 4 doors. Okay, fine, fair point, but this car has the closest resemblance to a muscle car. The next entry is also a 4-door sedan. It's the Mercury Marauder. I don't know about you, but when I see one, I know, and whoever's driving with me is gonna hear from me, because you can't not say anything when you see one. And that's what I'm trying to say, is like, I feel as if most non-car people would just think it's like another Crown Vic, another Panther body platform car, right? And for that, I do feel like this car is kind of forgotten. But we all know that this is one beefy. The Marauder we are thinking about is actually in its second generation. The first generation was from the 60s and then they brought it back. Talk about being forgotten about. While only produced for 2 years, the Marauder definitely left its mark.
Approved.
It came with 18-inch alloys, dual tips, a sports-tuned suspension, and an engine from the SVT Cobra, and also the Lincoln Aviator, but that's not as cool. 330 horsepower sent straight to the rear wheels. Now with that V8, the Marauder gets 5 miles per gallon city. However, in its first production year, if you bought this car, you were given a specially made Marauder jacket. Alright, so now it's time to rank these cars on a tier list. We have S, A, B, C, and D. S means it's freaking out of this world, and D means it's a terrible car. I'm going to put the Eldorado and the Thunderbird in C tier. I'm going to put the Mark 8 in B tier. I feel like it's not good enough to be in A tier, but I feel like it's not as boring, and it has more styling and more power than the Eldorado and the Thunderbird. Moving on to A tier, I have both the Marauder and the Impala SS. Here's the thing, I can't really tell you which one I like better. I think they both have their unique characteristics and just awesome features to them that make them what they are today. And for that, I really can't have one better than the other, so I'm putting them both in A. That's gonna wrap it for this video. If you liked it, please give it a comment. What was your favorite car on this list? I really appreciate all the feedback that I'm getting. I love reading your comments. I appreciate you tuning in. Thank you so much.